I spent years studying billionaires and found these 10 things. If I told you that the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary life comes down to a handful of patterns that repeat themselves over and over again among the world's most successful people, would you believe me? Because after years of studying billionaires, global CEOs, legendary founders, wealth creators, and the mindset behind the greatest fortunes of our time, I discovered something both shocking and empowering. Success is not random. Prosperity is not luck. Wealth is not a mystery reserved for the chosen few. There is a code, a psychological and behavioral blueprint, and once you see it, you can never unsee it again. Think of people like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, or companies like Amazon, Tesla, and Apple. Different backgrounds, different industries, different personalities. Yet, beneath the surface, 10 identical behaviors appear again and again, like the universe whispering the same truth in 10 different languages. And here's the part most people never hear. These lessons aren't just about money. They're about identity, discipline, vision, emotional intelligence, courage. They are about who you become in the process of creating wealth. When you absorb these 10 principles, you begin to think differently, act differently, decide differently, and life starts responding to you in a different frequency. You stop chasing success and start attracting it. You stop surviving and start expanding. You stop dreaming and start materializing. So today, I will share the 10 patterns I found, the 10 things billionaires do that others don't. Not theories, not cliches, not motivational fluff, real psychological shifts, real strategic behaviors, real prosperity principles that the wealthiest people on the planet embody daily. And if you choose to internalize them, you won't just understand billionaires, you will begin to understand your own untapped potential. Let's begin. Topic 1. They think in decades, not days. When I look back at the years I spent studying billionaires, world-class founders, legendary investors, and the psychological frameworks behind extreme prosperity, one realization hit me harder than all the others. These people think in decades, not days. And the more I observed this pattern, the clearer it became that this alone explains why some individuals build empires while others struggle to maintain the same results year after year. Billionaires operate on a fundamentally different timeline. And because of that, they develop a fundamentally different identity. Calmer, clearer, more strategic, more intentional, more resilient. It's almost like their internal clock ticks differently. They don't count days, they count eras. Think about Jeff Bezos. Long before Amazon became a global force shaping commerce, logistics, and technology, Bezos was already projecting where the company would be 10 years in the future. He famously said that he spent most of his time thinking about what Amazon would look like 3 to 5 years ahead, because the present moment is simply the residue of decisions made long before. That idea alone can radically shift how you approach your own goals. When you understand that today is simply the echo of your past thinking, you begin to treat the future with more reverence. You start designing it consciously. You stop reacting and start architecting. Bezos built Amazon brick by brick, making decisions that made little sense to outsiders in the short term, yet made perfect sense in the long arc of a visionary decade-long plan. That's why Amazon was able to withstand ridicule, skepticism, years without profit, and countless predictions of failure. Bezos wasn't competing for the moment. He was creating the future. The same long-range thinking shaped the philosophy of Warren Buffett, who quietly built one of the largest fortunes in human history by mastering the extraordinary power of compounded returns. Buffett's genius was never about being the fastest or taking extreme risks. His genius was patience, patience so deep and so unwavering that it almost feels supernatural. Compounding doesn't reward those who sprint for a year. It rewards those who stay in the game for 20, 30, 50 years. And Buffett stayed. He didn't care about looking impressive next month. He cared about being unstoppable decades later. Most people wouldn't wait for results to grow that slowly, but billionaires understand that time is not an obstacle. It is an ally, a strategic partner, a multiplier of intelligence and discipline. Buffett once said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." Wealth always flows toward the long-term thinker. Then we have Elon Musk, whose thinking stretches beyond decades, sometimes beyond his own lifetime. When he built Tesla, people mocked him. When he committed himself to SpaceX, they dismissed him as unrealistic. But Musk wasn't imagining the next financial quarter. He was imagining the future of energy, transportation, and humanity itself. His timelines aren't measured by convenience, they're measured by impact. And this boldness to think beyond the limits of the present moment gives him a psychological advantage that most people can't even perceive. When critics screamed failure, Musk heard only "not yet." When markets panicked, he stayed focused on the mission. Thinking long-term gives you a level of emotional stability that short-term thinkers will never understand, because your sense of purpose becomes more powerful than any temporary obstacle. As I analyzed these ultra-successful individuals, a pattern emerged. They are shockingly calm in situations that would make the average person spiral. They don't panic at short-term losses. They don't crumble under temporary failure. They don't let impatience sabotage their long-term vision. Why? Because they know exactly where they are going. The horizon is so clear to them that momentary turbulence does not distort their internal compass. A delayed result does not equal a denied destiny. When your vision extends beyond the next few days, you automatically stop dramatizing temporary setbacks. You begin welcoming slow progress because you finally understand something that billionaires understand instinctively. Slow progress isn't a problem. Slow progress is a strategy. And here's the transformational insight that reshapes your entire life the moment it lands. When you shift your focus to decades, your relationship with time, effort, and identity changes instantly. You stop asking superficial questions like, "How fast can I get there?" and start asking the question that truly moves the needle. Who do I need to become over the next 10 years to create the life I want? That question unlocks depth. It unlocks maturity. It unlocks emotional resilience. The moment you begin thinking long-term, procrastination loses its power, fear shrinks, distractions become irrelevant, and your discipline strengthens because now you're building something meaningful, something future you will thank you for. Most people sabotage their own destiny because they think too small in time. They want tomorrow's results with today's level of effort. They want the rewards of mastery without the seasons required to grow into a master. They treat success like a lottery ticket when success is actually a long-term construction project. And this explains why the world's wealthiest individuals often seem almost unaffected by immediate outcomes. They aren't detached, they're just anchored. They're not ignoring the present, they're contextualizing it. They know that the present moment is only a pixel in the massive mural of their long-term vision, so they refuse to let that single pixel determine their emotional state. The truth is, people who think in days chase opportunities, while people who think in decades create opportunities. People who think in days react. People who think in decades build. People who think in days want results. People who think in decades want evolution. And evolution always beats urgency in the long run. Billionaires are not wired differently. They are trained differently. They train themselves to stretch their mind into the future and then reverse engineer their way back into the present. They act today with the wisdom of who they are becoming, not the limitations of who they are now. And this is the invitation for anyone seeking prosperity. Expand your timeline, expand your expectations, expand your patience. When you make decisions the way a decade-level thinker makes them, you suddenly stop feeling behind. You realize you have more time than you thought, and because you have more time, you can build something far greater than you ever imagined. The moment you step into long-term thinking, you stop rushing. You stop doubting. You stop quitting. You develop billionaire calmness, billionaire clarity, and billionaire consistency. And that, more than any strategy, marks the beginning of your transformation into someone who is no longer intimidated by time, but empowered by it. Topic 2. They master self-discipline long before they master wealth. One of the most striking discoveries I made after years of studying billionaires is that their wealth is never the first thing they master. Money is a consequence, not the foundation. The foundation is self-discipline. Discipline is the internal architecture that holds everything together. It is the invisible force that shapes their character, directs their actions, and protects their long-term vision from the sabotage of impulse. Before they master wealth, they master themselves. And when you look closely at the greatest success stories of our time, the pattern becomes undeniable. Billionaires live by a different relationship with discipline, one that transforms ordinary potential into extraordinary results. Think about Warren Buffett again. People marvel at his net worth, his investment genius, and his ability to foresee value where others see noise. But the truth behind his success is far simpler and far rarer. Buffett's life is a testament to consistent, almost ritualistic discipline. He reads for hours every day. He studies businesses relentlessly. He makes decisions based on logic, not emotion. He avoids distractions with a level of clarity that most people never develop because they never train themselves to resist the constant pull of short-term gratification. Buffett's genius is not intensity, it is consistency. His wealth is not the product of occasional brilliance, but of disciplined behavior repeated over decades. This pattern repeats itself when you look at Oprah Winfrey, a global icon whose empire spans television, publishing, film, and philanthropy. Oprah's greatest success is not her fame, but her inner mastery. She has spoken countless times about the discipline required to overcome her early hardships, reshape her identity, and create a life that defied every expectation placed upon her. She built her career on disciplined habits of self-awareness, emotional reflection, boundary setting, and unwavering commitment to personal growth. Her morning routines, her reflective practices, her habit of aligning every decision with intention. These were not glamorous actions, but they were foundational. She disciplined her mind before she disciplined her empire, and that is why the empire could grow. Self-discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Without it, dreams remain fantasies. With it, dreams begin turning into structure, action, and momentum. Billionaires are not more motivated than the rest of us. They are simply more disciplined in acting despite how they feel. They don't wait for inspiration. They don't rely on mood. They don't negotiate with their excuses. When they commit to a course of action, they treat it like a promise to themselves, and that internal integrity becomes a source of power that compounds over time. They trust themselves because they have trained themselves to be trustworthy. That's what self-discipline actually is, the practice of becoming someone you can rely on. Look at the life of Elon Musk. It is easy to focus on his innovations, the electric cars, the rockets, the bold ideas about the future of humanity. But what people often overlook is the magnitude of discipline required to hold together companies as demanding as Tesla and SpaceX simultaneously. Musk is disciplined in his work ethic, disciplined in his ambition, disciplined in his tolerance for failure, disciplined in his ability to endure pressure, and disciplined in showing up when 99% of people would quit. His discipline is not comfortable. It is not romantic. It is forged through responsibility, pressure, sacrifice, and the willingness to persist far longer than anyone expects. Billionaires don't become extraordinary because they have no challenges. They become extraordinary because they discipline themselves to push through challenges that would break most people. What fascinated me most while studying wealthy individuals is that self-discipline shows up not only in their work, but in the smallest details of their daily life. It is reflected in how they spend their mornings, how they protect their energy, how they choose their relationships, how they manage their emotional triggers, how they plan their time, and how they silence the inner voice that whispers, "It's fine, just do it later." Discipline is not a moment. It is a lifestyle. It is a quiet daily commitment to a higher standard, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. And here's the part that truly separates billionaire-level discipline from ordinary discipline. They do not depend on willpower. They design their environment, their habits, and their identity in a way that reduces friction toward good decisions and increases friction toward bad ones. They understand that discipline becomes easier when the path to success is intentionally structured into their life. They eliminate distractions because they know distractions are not harmless. They are assassins of destiny. They engineer their routines because routines create momentum, and momentum creates confidence. They honor their commitments to themselves because self-respect is one of the most powerful psychological drivers of long-term achievement. The average person believes that discipline is about restriction, sacrifice, or punishment. Billionaires understand that discipline is liberation. Without discipline, you become a prisoner of impulse. With discipline, you become the architect of your destiny. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop being pulled in every direction and start moving in one powerful direction. You stop sabotaging opportunities and start capitalizing on them. Discipline creates inner freedom, the freedom to focus, to build, to grow, to evolve. As I observed more and more wealthy individuals, I began to realize that self-discipline is not a trait. It is a decision that becomes a habit, that becomes a personality. At some point, the habits harden into identity. When a billionaire wakes up early, protects their schedule, reads daily, exercises, or works through difficult tasks, they're not relying on motivation. They're simply being who they have decided to become. Their discipline is automated. It's no longer a battle. It's a rhythm. It's the rhythm of someone who knows what they want and refuses to sabotage their own future. And here's what makes this insight so empowering for you and me. Self-discipline is learnable. It is trainable. It is not a gift handed to the fortunate. It is a muscle that grows every time you choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. Every time you resist a distraction, you strengthen your identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you amplify your self-respect. Every time you follow through on an action you didn't feel like doing, you reinforce the version of yourself that is capable of wealth, success, abundance, and impact. Billionaires master discipline long before they master wealth, because discipline is what allows wealth to stay, grow, and multiply. Money gravitates toward order, not chaos, toward clarity, not confusion, toward intention, not impulsivity. And once you embody billionaire-level discipline, consistency, emotional regulation, focus, intentionality, you stop chasing success and begin attracting it. You become the kind of person success is drawn to. You become the kind of person prosperity trusts. In the end, self-discipline is the quiet superpower behind every extraordinary life. It is the internal force that transforms potential into achievement, desire into progress, and dreams into reality. When you master discipline, you unlock the gateway to every other billionaire principle that follows. Because if you cannot govern your impulses, you cannot govern your destiny. And billionaires understand that the person they become through disciplined action is far more valuable than the money they make. Topic 3. They obey a different level of focus that most people never experience. If there is one superpower that billionaires possess, one ability that separates them from the noise, chaos, and mediocrity that consumes most people's lives, it is their ability to focus with an almost supernatural intensity. And I don't mean the casual kind of focus people talk about when they switch off notifications for an hour. I'm talking about a level of concentration so deep, so unwavering, so fiercely protected that it allows them to create at a speed and magnitude the rest of the world can't comprehend. Billionaires do not simply pay attention, they control attention. They treat focus as a sacred resource, something to invest, not something to waste. And once you understand how they manage their attention, you begin to understand why their results are so extraordinary. When I studied the routines and behaviors of highly successful individuals, I noticed something fascinating. They all behave as if distraction is the enemy. They defend their mental bandwidth with the vigilance of a bodyguard. Consider Steve Jobs, a visionary who transformed industries by stripping away the unnecessary. Jobs believed that focus was not just about what you choose to do, but what you choose not to do. When he returned to Apple in the late 90s, the company had dozens of products and projects that were spread thin across the organization. Jobs eliminated almost everything. He reduced the product line to a simple grid. He removed noise until only clarity remained. That radical simplification led to one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history. But the deeper lesson is this: Jobs' brilliance came not from doing everything, but from doing almost nothing, except what truly mattered. And then there is Bill Gates, known for his Think Weeks, where he would isolate himself with nothing but books, ideas, and strategic problems to solve. No meetings, no emails, no interruptions, just uninterrupted thought. These Think Weeks birthed innovations inside Microsoft that changed the trajectory of the company. Gates understood something that is becoming increasingly rare today. Deep focus is where genius lives, not in multitasking, not in jumping between tasks like a digital acrobat. True breakthroughs come from sustained concentration, where the mind finally has the space to connect patterns, generate insights, and unlock solutions buried beneath the surface of ordinary thinking. The world distracts you every second. Billionaires design their life to resist that pull. Their focus is intentional, structured, and purposeful. It's not dependent on motivation. It's built into their environment, their routines, their priorities, their decisions. When you observe how they work, you notice they create psychological tunnels, periods of time where nothing exists except the mission. During these tunnels, ideas crystallize, performance skyrockets, and actions compound. This is why they achieve more in a month than some people achieve in a year. Their focus multiplies their productivity. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, who famously wore the same style of gray t-shirt for years. People mocked him for it. But the truth behind this choice reveals a powerful reality. He was removing decision fatigue so he could allocate maximum cognitive energy to what mattered most. The shirt wasn't about fashion, it was about focus. Every unnecessary decision removed is an extra drop of mental clarity gained. That clarity compounds over time. That clarity is what allows billionaires to sustain high performance without burning out. Focus is the fuel of mastery, and billionaires are masters at eliminating the trivial. They say no more often than they say yes. They decline opportunities that others would chase impulsively. They understand that every yes carries a hidden cost: attention. And attention is far more valuable than money because without attention, money cannot grow. Without attention, ideas cannot mature. Without attention, potential cannot become progress. A distracted person is powerless. A focused person is unstoppable. When studying legendary founders, I noticed something profound. They operate in flow states more frequently than the average person even realizes is possible. Flow is that powerful psychological state where time feels different. Productivity increases, creativity expands, and everything becomes easier. But flow is not accidental. It is the byproduct of deep focus. You cannot live in flow if your attention is constantly fragmented. And billionaires intuitively understand this. They structure their days to enter flow. They batch tasks. They protect mornings. They limit input. They create boundaries. They view their mind as a high-performance machine, not a dumping ground for random information. What shocked me most was how fiercely they protect their mental environment. Many of them avoid unnecessary meetings. They minimize social obligations. They delegate everything that does not require their unique genius. They automate decisions. They shield themselves from noise, both digital and emotional. They create an internal stillness where high-quality thinking can occur. The average person allows everyone else to dictate their attention. Billionaires dictate their own attention and expect the world to adapt. The truth is, focus is not just a habit. It is a lifestyle. It is a philosophy. It is a declaration that your goals matter more than distraction, that your future matters more than your impulses, that your calling matters more than the stimulation the world keeps throwing at you. Billionaires build their fortunes on the foundation of this unwavering commitment to focus. They know that clarity produces power, and power produces progress. Without clarity, effort is wasted. Without focus, talent is diluted. Without attention, even the most brilliant ideas die before they have a chance to grow. And here's where the shift happens for you. When you begin treating your attention as a form of wealth, your life begins to transform. When you stop giving your focus to everything and everyone, you start giving your focus to what builds you, strengthens you, and moves you forward. You stop scattering your energy and start channeling it. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop living in mental chaos and start living in mental alignment. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence, opportunity, or ability. They fail because they are too distracted to notice the doors opening in front of them. They fail because they start everything and finish nothing. They fail because their potential is diluted by too many competing inputs. Billionaires succeed because they do the opposite. They guard their time. They protect their mind. They narrow their efforts. They choose one path and walk it deeply, consistently, and deliberately until it becomes mastery. When you study wealthy individuals long enough, you realize something liberating. Focus is not a gift. It is a discipline. It is something you train, something you strengthen, something you choose. You may not control your circumstances, but you control your attention. And once you master that, you unlock a level of personal power that most people never access. This is the billionaire's secret. The world rewards the focused. Focus creates expertise. Expertise creates value. Value creates wealth. And it all begins with the simple, courageous decision to take back your attention and direct it toward the life you actually want to build. Topic 4. They see failure as data, not defeat. If there is one belief that radically reshapes your relationship with success, it is this: billionaires do not fear failure. They study it. They analyze it. They dissect it. They treat failure the same way a scientist treats an experiment. Neither good nor bad, simply information. Failure is not a wound to them. It is feedback. It is data. It is a message from reality describing what works, what doesn't, and what must be refined. This mindset alone changes the entire trajectory of a person's life, because the way you interpret failure determines whether you evolve or stay trapped. When I immersed myself in the lives of extraordinary wealth creators, the first thing that became clear was this: they fail more than anyone else. The difference is that their failures do not break them. Their failures build them. They experience rejection, loss, mistakes, and setbacks in quantities far greater than the average person. But because they interpret failure differently, they grow faster. They adapt faster. They reinvent faster. Most people avoid failure their entire lives, and in doing so, they avoid growth. Billionaires do the opposite. They chase growth, knowing it will bring failure along the way, yet they step forward anyway. Look at Thomas Edison. Although not a billionaire in the modern sense, but undeniably one of the greatest innovators in history. Edison's journey to inventing the light bulb was nothing short of a masterclass in failure. He tested thousands of materials, thousands of prototypes, thousands of attempts that didn't work. But each attempt generated data. Each failure eliminated a hypothesis. Each setback refined the path forward. When asked how it felt to fail so many times, Edison replied that he had not failed. He had simply found thousands of ways that did not work. This mindset is identical to the mindset of modern billionaires. They do not attach their identity to the outcome of an attempt. Their identity remains rooted in their long-term mission. The attempt is just information. The same pattern appears in the story of Jeff Bezos. Amazon has had spectacular successes, but it has also famously launched projects that collapsed. The Fire Phone is one example, a massive financial loss, widely mocked by analysts. But to Bezos, it was simply data that redirected the company toward more profitable innovations. The same research team and technology explored for the Fire Phone later contributed to Alexa and the Echo devices, which became runaway successes. Bezos once said, "If you think that's a big failure, we're working on much bigger failures right now." That sentence reveals a profound truth. Billionaires expect failure. They budget for failure. They plan for failure because they understand that innovation requires risk, and risk brings outcomes that can't be predicted. Failure isn't a setback. It's part of the process. This same principle appears in the relentless journey of Elon Musk, whose companies have failed publicly, spectacularly, and repeatedly. Rockets exploded. Timelines collapsed. Critics cheered. But Musk didn't interpret these events as personal humiliation. He saw scientific data being collected in real time. Each explosion carried insights that no simulation could replicate. Each failure accelerated learning. And because he detached ego from the outcome, SpaceX eventually accomplished something no private company in history had ever done: launching rockets that returned safely to Earth. These victories are built on the ashes of previous failures that many people would have run from. Fear of failure destroys more dreams than failure itself ever could. And billionaires have mastered the art of reframing failure so deeply that the emotional sting disappears. They don't spiral into self-doubt. They don't catastrophize. They don't interpret a failed experiment as a reflection of their worth. They allow themselves to stay emotionally neutral even when the results are disappointing. That emotional neutrality is a superpower. It keeps their mind clear. It keeps their actions consistent. It keeps their vision intact. Most people abandon their dreams after the first sign of difficulty because they believe difficulty means it wasn't meant to be. Billionaires think the opposite. Difficulty means you're on the right path. Difficulty means you've entered the arena where breakthroughs happen. While studying these individuals, I noticed that they don't just tolerate failure, they mine it. They extract insights like gold. They ask better questions than most people ask themselves. Instead of, "Why did this happen to me?" they ask, "What is this moment teaching me? What pattern is being revealed? What must I adjust next? How can this setback strengthen the system? They treat failure as a mentor. The average person treats failure as a judge. This difference alone creates two very different destinies. Another striking discovery is that billionaires rarely use failure as a reason to slow down. In fact, failure often accelerates their pace. The moment something breaks, they fix, refine, re-strategize, and continue. They don't take failure personally, so they don't waste time healing bruised pride. They simply move forward. This is why their progress appears exponential. They accumulate lessons at a speed most people never reach because most people avoid the experiences that create those lessons. When you fear failure, you limit exposure to growth. When you embrace failure, you multiply exposure to growth. Failure becomes liberating when you stop interpreting it as final. When you see failure as temporary, flexible, and informative, it loses its power to intimidate you. You stop approaching your goals with hesitation and start approaching them with curiosity. You stop bracing for disappointment and start expecting to learn. Billionaires have mastered this psychological freedom. They know that every failed attempt contains an instruction manual for the next attempt. They know that resilience is not something you discover. It is something you build through repeated exposure to challenge. And they know that the only real failure is giving up. The truth is, failure is not a dead end. It is a directional sign. It tells you where not to go so you can find where you should go. It reveals blind spots. It exposes weaknesses. It strengthens judgment. It burns away ineffective strategies. It forces you to evolve into someone capable of handling the success you desire. Every setback is a refinement. Every disappointment is a recalibration. Every loss is a lesson disguised as a detour. And here's the breakthrough insight that changed my life. When you stop fearing failure, you become powerful. You become courageous. You become unstoppable. Fear of failure shrinks your world. Acceptance of failure expands it. The moment you treat failure as data, you step into the mindset that wealth, innovation, and prosperity require. You realize that the people you admire didn't succeed because everything worked. They succeeded because they kept adapting every time something didn't work. Billionaires do not avoid failure. They accelerate through it. They collect information. They refine strategy. They enhance their decision-making. And because of this, they evolve faster than everyone else. Failure becomes their competitive advantage. It becomes their compass. It becomes their training ground. When you begin applying this mindset in your own life, when you stop taking failure personally and start taking it intelligently, your confidence grows. Your resilience strengthens. Your perspective expands. And suddenly, goals that once felt unreachable begin to feel inevitable. Because failure is no longer an obstacle. It becomes a tool, a teacher, a stepping stone. And once you master failure the way billionaires do, you step into a reality where progress becomes relentless, growth becomes continuous, and success becomes a matter of time. Topic 5. They surround themselves with high-caliber people who elevate their thinking. If there is one truth that becomes impossible to ignore when you study billionaires up close, it is this. Their environment is engineered for growth. Not by accident, not by luck, by deliberate choice. Billionaires understand a psychological principle that most people underestimate their entire lives. Your environment shapes your destiny. The people you surround yourself with either elevate your thinking or shrink it. They either expand your potential or suffocate it. They either lift your standards or lower them. And billionaires are ruthless, absolutely ruthless, in choosing relationships that amplify their vision instead of limiting it. When I analyzed the lives of extraordinary wealth creators, the first thing that stood out was the sheer intentionality behind their circle. They do not allow proximity based on convenience, sentiment, or habit. Their inner circle is earned. It is curated. It is aligned. They surround themselves with thinkers, innovators, problem solvers, strategists, and visionaries. People who challenge them. People who stretch their mind. People who force them to elevate their standards. Billionaires do not seek comfort. They seek expansion. They know that the human brain normalizes whatever it is exposed to consistently. So, if you are surrounded by average thinking, your mind adapts to average. If you are surrounded by excellence, your mind adapts to excellence. Look at Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. two visionaries who, despite building competing empires, were known to engage in deep conversations, debates, and strategic reflections that sharpened each other's thinking. These weren't casual interactions. They were collisions of intelligence that produced clarity, insight, and innovation. Jobs was relentless in surrounding himself with A-players at Apple, famously saying that small teams of brilliant people outperform large teams of mediocre ones. He believed that excellence is contagious, and so is mediocrity, and he refused to compromise. Jobs didn't hire people to fill roles. He hired people who could elevate the work. The same pattern emerges in the story of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, one of the most legendary partnerships in financial history. Buffett once said he is a better investor because of Munger, and Munger said the same of Buffett. Their partnership was built on mutual intellectual respect. Their conversations created billion-dollar ideas. Their disagreements sharpened their logic. Their shared values created alignment that compounded over decades. They were proof of a profound truth. One high-caliber relationship can elevate your life more than 100 shallow ones. Billionaires seek people who challenge their assumptions, not those who validate them. They want people who push them beyond their comfort zone, not people who keep them comfortable. They want people who stimulate curiosity, not people who drain energy. They want people who live with purpose, ambition, and integrity because these qualities reinforce their own. When you surround yourself with greatness, greatness becomes normalized. When you surround yourself with complacency, complacency becomes normalized. Your circle is a silent architect of your identity. Consider Elon Musk, who built teams at Tesla and SpaceX with people who thrive under extreme challenges. Musk intentionally hires individuals who are obsessive problem solvers, people who do not crumble in the face of uncertainty, but come alive in it. These environments generate breakthroughs because everyone in the room is operating at an elevated cognitive and emotional frequency. The expectations are high, the pace is intense, and the mission is demanding. But because the people are aligned in purpose and capability, the environment becomes a breeding ground for unprecedented achievements. Another compelling example is Oprah Winfrey, whose success is deeply connected to her ability to form powerful, meaningful relationships. Oprah surrounded herself with mentors, thinkers, teachers, and visionaries who helped her expand spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and professionally. She built a network not based on convenience, but on elevation. She sought people who inspired her, taught her, grounded her, and challenged her to evolve. Her network was intentional, aligned, and empowering, a reflection of her desire to grow into the highest version of herself. Billionaires understand something that most people never fully grasp. Your inner circle is not merely a social group, it is a psychological ecosystem. It influences your risk tolerance, your resilience, your ambition, your habits, your emotional regulation, your values, and your ability to see opportunity. Billionaires do not allow negativity, small thinking, or energy-draining personalities to enter their world because they understand the cost. Every relationship carries a frequency. Some amplify your vision, others suffocate it. Some elevate your confidence, others plant seeds of doubt. Some expand your creativity, others make you shrink, and billionaires choose deliberately. The most transformative insight I discovered is that billionaires don't just seek mentors. They seek peer elevation. They cultivate relationships where everyone is growing, evolving, and expanding simultaneously. They know that when you are surrounded by greatness, your brain rewires itself to match the standards of the environment. You expect more of yourself. You demand more of yourself. You rise to the level of those around you because humans naturally adapt to their social surroundings. This is why mediocrity is dangerous. Not because mediocre people are bad, but because mediocrity lowers your standards without you noticing. You begin to adopt the beliefs, habits, fears, and limitations of those around you. You mirror their energy. You inherit their narratives. If their goals are small, yours shrink. If their mindset is limited, yours contracts. If they justify complacency, you begin to justify it too. The environment slowly shapes you until you forget you were capable of more. But when you surround yourself with powerful thinkers, people who dream audaciously, act courageously, and live intentionally, you rise. You expand. You begin to see bigger possibilities. You adopt higher standards. You think more strategically. You operate with purpose. This is why billionaires invest so heavily in relationships. They know that proximity to excellence creates excellence. And here is the personal breakthrough that can change your life. Your future is hidden in your circle. If you want to grow, you must be willing to outgrow people. If you want to elevate, you must be willing to elevate your environment. If you want to think like a billionaire, you must surround yourself with people who pull you upward, not downward. People who inspire movement, not stagnation. People who stretch your mind, not shrink it. You don't need a large circle. You need an aligned one. You need people who believe in expansion, growth, discipline, ambition, and possibility. The truth is, you become who you spend time with. Billionaires know this. They live by it. They protect their environment with the same seriousness they protect their wealth. And once you begin doing the same, curating your relationships, elevating your standards, seeking higher-level conversations, you will feel your identity shift. You will feel your vision strengthen. You will feel your confidence rise. And that is when success begins to accelerate. Because the moment your environment changes, you change. And once you change, your life cannot stay the same. Topic 6. They move with calculated speed. Decisions are made fast, adjusted faster. One of the most transformative discoveries I made while studying billionaires is that they make decisions at a speed completely foreign to the average person. They do not sit in hesitation for long. They do not ruminate endlessly. They do not allow months of indecision to drain their energy, dilute their ambition, or slow their momentum. Billionaires make decisions quickly and refine those decisions continually. Their power lies not in being perfect, but in being decisive. They understand that success favors movement, not stagnation. They move, they learn, they adjust, and they move again. While the average person is still debating what to do, billionaires have already executed, collected feedback, and refined their strategy. This speed is not recklessness. It is calculated, intentional, and rooted in a profound understanding of opportunity cost. Every moment spent hesitating is a moment lost in the marketplace. Every delay carries a hidden cost. Billionaires see hesitation as one of the most expensive habits a person can have. They know that conditions will never be perfect, so they act before perfection is available. They understand that clarity comes from action, not thought. They don't wait to feel ready. They move until readiness appears. One of the clearest examples of this mindset is Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon through a philosophy known as high-velocity decision-making. Bezos famously stated that most decisions should be made when you have about 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for more, you're too slow. If you need certainty, you'll be left behind. Bezos understood that speed itself is a competitive advantage. The ability to make decisions quickly creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities that slow thinkers never experience. Decisions become a force of acceleration. This is also reflected in the behavior of Elon Musk, who runs multiple high-stakes companies like Tesla and SpaceX simultaneously. Musk moves with an intensity and speed that many people perceive as extreme. But beneath that intensity lies a philosophy. Movement reveals truth. He doesn't wait to know the perfect plan because he knows that perfect plans do not exist in dynamic industries. He takes action early, allowing real-world data to guide refinement. Rockets are built, tested, and improved rapidly. Cars are produced, updated, and upgraded continuously. The speed at which these companies innovate is not accidental. It is engineered through decisive leadership. What fascinated me as I studied these individuals was the emotional dimension behind their decisiveness. They do not let fear freeze them. They do not allow uncertainty to paralyze them. They accept that every decision carries risk, and they move anyway. The average person tries to eliminate risk before taking action. Billionaires reduce risk through action. They use speed not only to seize opportunity, but to expose flaws quickly, so those flaws can be fixed before they become costly. They know that slow decision-making often leads to larger mistakes because problems grow quietly in the shadows of hesitation. Another powerful example of this principle comes from Sarah Blakely, who became the youngest self-made female billionaire not through perfect strategy, but through decisive experimentation. She didn't wait to understand every detail of manufacturing, distribution, or brand building. She made decisions quickly, took imperfect action, listened to feedback, and adapted relentlessly. Her willingness to move fast opened doors that would have remained closed if she had waited for certainty or external validation. The world rewards creators who act boldly, not thinkers who analyze endlessly. Billionaires treat decisions as progress, not pressure. They are not afraid to get things wrong because they trust their ability to adjust. The average person believes that a wrong decision is dangerous. Billionaires believe that no decision is far more dangerous. When you delay, opportunities expire, markets shift, competitors move ahead, momentum disappears, energy fades, and worst of all, self-trust erodes. The inability to decide becomes a habit of avoidance that slowly destroys your potential. One of the most profound lessons I learned from studying billionaire behavior is that decision-making speed is directly connected to confidence. When you trust yourself, you decide quickly. When you doubt yourself, you wait. Waiting becomes a psychological trap. It feels safe, but it silently kills your potential. Billionaires cultivate self-trust through repetition. Each decision they make reinforces the identity of someone who can navigate uncertainty. Each adjustment strengthens their adaptability. Every action becomes evidence that they are capable, and capability breeds confidence. I noticed something fascinating while observing the daily habits of the most successful leaders and entrepreneurs. They limit the number of decisions they make that don't matter. They simplify their routines. They delegate choices that others can handle. They reduce the cognitive load of small tasks so they can preserve mental energy for the decisions that actually move the needle. This is why Mark Zuckerberg wore the same style of t-shirt for years, and why Steve Jobs favored his classic black turtleneck. It wasn't about fashion. It was about conserving decision-making power for what truly mattered. A mind freed from trivial choices moves faster on the choices that shape destiny. Speed for billionaires is more than efficiency. It is a mindset, a competitive weapon, a psychological advantage. Speed creates opportunities that slow thinkers never see. Speed builds momentum that compounds. Speed allows for learning cycles that unfold exponentially faster than those of the average person. If you make one decision a week and a billionaire makes one decision every hour, their learning curve grows thousands of times faster. They experience more mistakes, more corrections, more insights, and more breakthroughs, while others are still gathering opinions. Many people delay decisions because they fear choosing the wrong path. Billionaires move quickly because they know they can correct course. They understand that decisions are rarely permanent. Most paths can be adjusted, optimized, or reversed. What cannot be recovered is time. Time wasted in indecision is time stolen from your future. Time wasted in hesitation is opportunity slipping through your fingers. Time wasted waiting for certainty is time that could have been used to grow, experiment, and evolve. When you begin to adopt this mindset, everything in your life changes. You stop analyzing every detail to death. You stop waiting for perfect timing. You stop overthinking the next step. Instead, you act, you learn, you refine, you evolve. You start to see decisions as skill building, not pressure. Every choice becomes a practice in self-trust. Every action becomes a step forward. Every adjustment becomes progress. The greatest irony is that the world views billionaires as risk-takers, but the truth is that their speed reduces risk. By acting quickly, they expose flaws early, gather data faster, and pivot immediately. Slow thinkers hold on to flawed plans far longer because they invested so much time avoiding the decision in the first place. Speed protects billionaires from stagnation. Speed keeps them ahead of competition. Speed fuels innovation. Speed creates psychological momentum. And here is the empowering truth for you. Decisive action is a choice. You do not need millions of dollars to start thinking this way. You do not need a large team or global influence. You only need the courage to move. You need the willingness to trust yourself. You need the humility to adjust when needed. You need to embrace the philosophy that imperfect action creates more success than perfect hesitation. The moment you adopt billionaire-level decisiveness, your life accelerates. Opportunities appear faster. Growth happens quicker. Confidence strengthens. Self-doubt fades. And you begin to feel something powerful shift inside you. The energy of someone who creates their future instead of waiting for it. Someone who moves when others freeze. Someone who knows that motion is magic. Because at the end of the day, success is not about perfect decisions. It is about consistent movement. Billionaires are not great because they always choose correctly. They are great because they keep choosing, keep adjusting, and keep moving forward. They live in motion while the world hesitates. They create momentum while the world waits. They build futures while others fear making a mistake. And once you begin to think and act this way, your results begin to change, quickly, dramatically, and permanently. Topic 7. They cultivate an unshakable internal belief that they are meant for more. If there is one psychological trait that billionaires possess with almost startling consistency, it is their unshakable belief that they are meant for more. This belief is not arrogance, not ego, not delusion. It is identity. It is a deep internal conviction that their life has a trajectory beyond ordinary limits, and that their actions, their choices, and their destiny must align with that higher calling. Billionaires carry this belief like oxygen. It fuels them, it grounds them, it protects them when the world doubts them, it strengthens them when circumstances test them. And once you understand the depth of this inner certainty, you begin to understand the engine that powers extraordinary achievement. This belief does not begin when wealth arrives. It begins long before results appear. It begins when the external world sees nothing special, but the internal world knows something bigger is unfolding. The average person waits for evidence to believe. Billionaires believe until evidence appears. They walk into possibility without needing permission. They move toward expansion without needing proof. They trust their potential before anyone else recognizes it. And that trust becomes the foundation on which they build empires. Take Oprah Winfrey, whose early life was marked by trauma, rejection, poverty, and circumstances that break most people. Yet Oprah carried a profound inner conviction that her life was meant for greatness. That belief was not handed to her. It was cultivated through self-awareness, resilience, and the refusal to accept the limitations of her environment. She once said she always felt guided by a voice that told her she was born for something more. That belief shaped every decision she made. That identity allowed her to break generational cycles and build a global empire. Her career is living proof that external conditions do not define destiny. Internal belief does. Consider Elon Musk, whose ambitions often appeared impossible to the rest of the world. Building Tesla in an industry dominated by giants was considered foolish. Launching rockets with SpaceX was called insane. Talking about colonizing Mars sounded like science fiction. But Musk's belief in his mission was stronger than the world's doubt. He acted from identity, not approval. When critics screamed, he listened to the mission. When experts predicted failure, he listened to possibility. When logic said stop, his inner conviction said go. Billionaires move not because success is guaranteed. They move because they trust themselves to create success with time, action, and resilience. This inner belief is not loud. It is not performative. It is not shouted from rooftops. It is quiet, steady, and unwavering. It shows up in their decisions, their persistence, their refusal to quit. It shows up in moments of darkness when no one is watching, when circumstances seem hopeless, when the future feels uncertain. It is in these moments that the billionaire mindset reveals its true strength. Because while most people collapse under pressure, billionaires expand under pressure. Their belief becomes a shield. It becomes emotional armor. It becomes psychological fuel. One of the clearest examples of this is Howard Schultz, who grew up in public housing and came from a background that offered no signs of future wealth. Yet Schultz carried a vision for what he wanted to create. He believed he was meant to build something that would elevate millions of lives, and that belief drove him to take risks others considered unreasonable. When he first tried to raise money for Starbucks, he faced countless rejections. But each no strengthened his resolve instead of weakening it. He believed in the future he saw so vividly that external doubt became irrelevant. Success often looks impossible until the moment belief turns it into form. Here's the truth most people never hear. Internal belief is not about confidence. It is about identity. Billionaires do not say, "I think I can succeed." They say, "Success is who I am becoming." Identity-driven action is the most powerful form of action. When your identity expands, your behavior expands. When your behavior expands, your opportunities expand. When your opportunities expand, your results expand. Billionaires grow from the inside out, not the outside in. And here is what makes their belief unshakable. It is rooted in responsibility. They believe they are meant for more, not out of entitlement, but out of obligation. The obligation to use their gifts fully, to turn potential into contribution, to honor the opportunity of their existence. This sense of responsibility gives them emotional endurance. It makes them persistent. It makes them courageous. It keeps them moving when others would stop. When studying their psychology, I noticed something else. Billionaires rarely internalize failure as personal. They interpret failure as situational. This means their belief in themselves remains intact even when results fall short. The average person sees failure as evidence they are not good enough. Billionaires see failure as refinement. Their belief is anchored so deeply that failure cannot uproot it. Instead, failure becomes a stepping stone in the unfolding of their destiny. This unshakable belief also affects how they perceive obstacles. Where others see impossibility, they see potential. Where others see risk, they see opportunity. Where others see endings, they see beginnings. Their internal lens reframes their entire external reality. They are not delusional. They simply refuse to let external circumstances limit their self-concept. They choose to live in possibility, not limitation. One of the most powerful realizations I had was this: billionaires do not operate from hope. They operate from expectation. They expect themselves to win eventually. They expect their vision to take shape. They expect life to respond to their persistence. And expectations create outcomes. When you expect greatness from yourself, you behave in ways that produce greatness. When you expect smallness, you behave in ways that reinforce limitation. Your internal expectations become self-fulfilling prophecies. Billionaires write their prophecy through belief. This belief is reinforced by their willingness to learn. They are students of life. They are humble enough to grow, to adjust, to challenge their assumptions. Their inner belief is not rigid. It evolves. It deepens. It strengthens. They don't believe they are perfect. They believe they are capable. And capability is far more powerful than perfection. Perfection leads to paralysis. Capability leads to progress. Billionaires move with the confidence of someone who trusts their ability to figure anything out. What truly sets them apart is that their belief is not conditional. It does not depend on timing, luck, or validation. It is not fragile. It is not fueled by applause. It persists in silence, in struggle, in solitude. It persists when the future is uncertain. It persists when the world doubts them. It persists because it is built into the fabric of who they are. They do not look for proof before believing. Their belief is the reason the proof eventually appears. And here is the breakthrough truth for you. This internal belief is not exclusive to billionaires. It is not genetic. It is not reserved for the fortunate. It is cultivated. It is developed. It is chosen. You can build the same belief through daily rituals of self-respect, self-honoring, and self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your belief strengthens. Every time you take action when you feel afraid, your belief strengthens. Every time you rise after falling, your belief strengthens. Belief is built, not bestowed. Once you cultivate this inner conviction that you are meant for more, your world begins to shift. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop shrinking your dreams. You stop accepting limitations that do not belong to you. You begin to move differently, think differently, expect differently. You begin to normalize greatness in your life. And as your internal reality expands, your external reality begins to align with it. Because the truth is simple yet profound. The world responds to those who believe in themselves. And once your belief becomes unshakable, the life you are meant to live becomes inevitable. Topic 8. They leverage systems, not willpower, to build massive wealth. If there is one truth that completely redefines how you see wealth creation, it is this: billionaires do not rely on willpower. They rely on systems. They do not depend on motivation. They depend on structure. They do not climb through discipline alone. They engineer environments, habits, and strategic frameworks that make success inevitable. And once you understand this, you realize why so many people struggle despite working hard, and why billionaires rise even when they start with less knowledge, less time, or fewer initial advantages. It is not effort alone that builds empires. It is systems. Systems multiply effort. Systems preserve energy. Systems turn chaos into clarity, and clarity into action. Systems transform wealth creation from something emotional into something predictable. During my research, I kept noticing the same pattern repeated across different personalities, industries, and eras. From Warren Buffett to Elon Musk, from Jeff Bezos to Ray Dalio, they all speak a language far more strategic than motivational. They design systems that allow them to make better decisions, faster. They create routines that automate consistency. They build teams that absorb complexity. They establish processes that protect their attention and their time. They rely on infrastructure, not inspiration. Take Buffett, for example. Most people think his success comes from superior intelligence, but he himself has said repeatedly that his greatest advantages come from his system, his investment framework, his rules, his principles, his filters. He doesn't wake up every morning and emotionally decide, what should I buy today? He built a system that guides his decisions independent of mood. His investment philosophy is a structure, not a feeling, and it has compounded into one of the greatest fortunes in human history. This is the difference between relying on willpower and relying on systems. Willpower fluctuates, systems endure. The same pattern is clear in Bezos' approach to building Amazon. The company is designed around systems optimized for speed, efficiency, customer obsession, and long-term scaling. Bezos built processes that allow innovation to happen repeatedly, not accidentally. Amazon's culture itself is a system, fast, decisive, customer-centric, data-driven. It's not about having motivated employees every day. It's about having an environment engineered for consistent, predictable excellence. When you build systems, you don't need to constantly push people. They are guided by the structure itself. Systems liberate billionaires from decision fatigue. The average person spends countless mental calories deciding what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and whether they feel like doing it. Billionaires eliminate that drain. They automate as much as they can. They delegate what can be delegated. They standardize tasks that repeat. They create routines that remove friction. The fewer decisions they must make, the more energy remains for strategy, creativity, and high-impact thinking. This is why Elon Musk can operate multiple billion-dollar companies at once. It isn't superhuman stamina, it is systems. At Tesla, manufacturing, engineering, and design work through interconnected processes optimized to accelerate iteration. At SpaceX, rocket development is systemized into a rapid cycle of build, test, learn, and improve. Musk doesn't manage every detail. He manages the system that manages the details. This is how enormous visions become manageable, not through force, but through structure. Another powerful example comes from Ray Dalio, whose company Bridgewater Associates became one of the most successful hedge funds in the world by using principles and systems to guide decision-making. Dalio developed a system of radical transparency, algorithmic thinking, and principle-based evaluations. He turned subjective decisions into objective rules. He turned intuition into structured reasoning. He turned emotional reactions into learnable patterns. His system removed ego from decision-making and replaced it with logic and data. The result? A company that could continue performing at the highest levels even when he wasn't present. Systems are force multipliers. They take an hour of effort and turn it into a day's worth of output. They take a moment of clarity and turn it into a lifetime of consistent behavior. They turn good ideas into sustainable results. And when you study billionaires deeply, you realize they use systems not only in business, but in personal development, health, finances, productivity, and relationships. They systemize their habits. They systemize their learning. They systemize their planning. They create rhythms that support their goals automatically. This is why billionaire success often looks effortless from the outside. It isn't effortless. It's structured. It's not that they never get tired. It's that their systems keep moving even when their energy dips. A system works on your behalf when you're asleep, distracted, busy, or overwhelmed. Willpower works only when you feel strong. Systems work even when you feel weak. One of the most transformational insights I discovered is that systems protect billionaires from their own human limitations. They know they will experience moments of doubt, fear, laziness, frustration, and confusion, just like everyone else. But instead of relying on emotional strength to carry them through every challenge, they build frameworks that carry them through automatically. They don't ask themselves, "Do I feel like doing this today?" Because the system dictates the action. They don't rely on daily motivation to move forward. Forward movement is built into the structure of their life. This truth is liberating. You don't need more discipline. You need better systems. Most people think they fail because they lack discipline. But the real reason is that their lives are not structured for success. Their environment works against them. Their routines drain them. Their habits sabotage them. Their minds battle constant friction. Billionaires eliminate friction. They build paths where success becomes the default outcome. What sets them apart is their understanding that systems are long-term assets. A system created once can produce value indefinitely. A system reduces effort and increases consistency. A system builds momentum over time. And momentum is the most powerful force in success. Once a system is running smoothly, it becomes a compounding machine. Every cycle strengthens the next. This is why billionaires scale so quickly once their systems are established. They are no longer building from scratch. They are expanding frameworks that already work. Systems turn one person's capabilities into a team's capabilities, into a company's capabilities, into an empire's capabilities. Systems make success transferable, teachable, repeatable. And here's the breakthrough for you. You don't need millions of dollars to create systems. You can begin systemizing your life today. You can build routines that support your goals. You can automate tasks that drain your energy. You can design your environment so it pulls you toward greatness instead of pulling you away from it. You can create habits that eliminate friction and amplify momentum. You can turn your aspirations into processes that unfold naturally over time. Once you begin replacing willpower with systems, your entire life changes. You stop fighting yourself. You stop relying on motivation that fluctuates. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You begin to experience consistency, clarity, and progress at a level you've never felt before. You begin to operate like someone who is building something meaningful, something sustainable, something you can scale. Because the truth is simple. Systems create success. Willpower creates exhaustion. Billionaires rise not because they are superhuman, but because they learned to build structures that make extraordinary results predictable. And once you adopt this mindset, success stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like a process. One that moves you forward every day, automatically, powerfully, and consistently. Topic 9. They develop emotional resilience, the superpower that protects their vision. There is a truth about billionaires that most people never see because it isn't flashy, it isn't loud, and it isn't measurable on a spreadsheet. But it is the quiet force that holds their entire empire together. It is the backbone of their persistence, the engine of their decision-making, and the shield that protects their vision from the storms of life. That truth is emotional resilience. Billionaires do not simply endure challenges, they absorb them, process them, and continue forward with an almost unshakable steadiness. While most people crumble emotionally under pressure, billionaires strengthen under pressure. They do not break when circumstances get hard. They harden their focus, their resolve, and their belief. This emotional resilience is not accidental. It is cultivated through repeated exposure to uncertainty, rejection, obstacles, and overwhelming pressure. The average person avoids pressure because it feels uncomfortable. Billionaires embrace pressure because they know it is the crucible that shapes greatness. They have trained their nervous system to tolerate stress, their minds to remain clear in chaos, and their emotions to stay regulated even when the world seems to be collapsing around them. This does not mean they feel no fear or doubt. It means their fear does not drive their behavior. Their doubt does not derail their plans. They experience emotion without becoming controlled by emotion. Take Jeff Bezos, for example, who built Amazon under relentless criticism for years. Analysts accused him of running a doomed business model. Competitors dismissed him. Investors doubted him. Yet Bezos maintained emotional steadiness that became a defining feature of Amazon's culture. He once said that he makes decisions based on what he believes to be true, not based on whether people agree or disagree. That level of emotional independence requires resilience. It requires the ability to separate external noise from internal direction. It requires the discipline to stay anchored in long-term thinking while the world demands short-term results. Emotional resilience is also the secret behind Elon Musk and his capacity to endure extreme levels of stress without losing momentum. When Tesla was nearing bankruptcy, when production issues became overwhelming, when the media attacked him daily, Musk slept on factory floors and worked around the clock. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he refused to let emotional overwhelm destroy the mission. He stayed focused when most people would have walked away. He endured ridicule, setbacks, financial threats, and personal exhaustion. Yet he continued pushing forward with an intensity that only emotional resilience can sustain. His resilience was not the absence of fear, it was the willingness to act despite fear. Another powerful example is Walt Disney, who faced bankruptcy, betrayal, and countless rejections before creating one of the most iconic entertainment empires in the world. Early in his career, he lost rights to one of his most successful characters. Many people would have given up at that moment, emotionally crushed. But Disney took the pain and transformed it into creative fire. He poured his resilience into creating Mickey Mouse and building the Walt Disney Company. Disney's life story is a testament to the idea that emotional setbacks can either bury you or build you, depending on the strength of your inner world. What I discovered while studying dozens of billionaires is that emotional resilience is tied directly to identity. They do not see setbacks as proof they are unworthy. They see setbacks as evidence they are evolving. They do not interpret challenges as the end of the road. They interpret challenges as necessary chapters in their story. They have a narrative inside their mind that protects them from despair. The average person interprets difficulties personally. Billionaires interpret difficulties strategically. This emotional reframing is one of their greatest advantages. Imagine two people facing the same obstacle. One thinks, "This is happening because I'm not good enough." The other thinks, "This is happening because the path to greatness requires this." Their emotional responses will shape their behavior, and their behavior will shape their destiny. Billionaires choose interpretation patterns that keep them moving forward. They refuse to let temporary emotions create permanent decisions. Emotional resilience also gives them a longer emotional timeline. They don't overreact to short-term wins or short-term losses. They don't get euphoric with success or devastated with failure. They maintain emotional equilibrium. This gives them clarity, and clarity gives them power. When everyone else is acting impulsively based on emotion, billionaires remain calm, strategic, and rational. That calmness becomes a superpower in chaotic environments. Additionally, emotional resilience gives them the capacity to handle uncertainty without collapsing. The average person seeks comfort, predictability, and control. Billionaires operate in environments that are inherently unpredictable. They make decisions without guarantees. They take risks without safety nets. They innovate without knowing if the world will respond. Emotional resilience allows them to tolerate this uncertainty without being consumed by it. They don't need certainty. They create direction. And here is another important insight. Emotionally resilient people recover faster. They experience setbacks like everyone else: disappointment, frustration, exhaustion. But they do not stay in those emotional states. They bounce back quickly because they have trained their minds to focus on solutions instead of problems, lessons instead of losses, and possibilities instead of limitations. Every emotional setback becomes a stepping stone toward greater strength. One of the most surprising things I discovered is that emotional resilience often comes from a deep sense of purpose. Billionaires anchor their work in meaning. They believe their mission matters. They believe their vision contributes to the world. They believe their life is connected to something bigger than themselves. Purpose makes pain tolerable. Purpose transforms obstacles into fuel. Purpose gives them emotional stamina during seasons when everything feels difficult. When you look at Oprah Winfrey, her emotional resilience comes from her commitment to healing, empowerment, and communication. When she faced public criticism, personal challenges, and business failures, she returned again and again to inner work: reflection, journaling, therapy, spiritual grounding. Her resilience was not accidental. It was cultivated through emotional regulation practices that strengthened her sense of self. And this is what billionaires know that most people don't. Emotional resilience is a skill, not a personality trait, not an inborn advantage. A skill that grows through exposure, reflection, training, and intentional mindset shifts. You become emotionally resilient by facing discomfort instead of avoiding it. You grow resilient by examining your emotional reactions instead of being controlled by them. You strengthen resilience by committing to your vision even when your feelings fluctuate. Once you develop emotional resilience, something remarkable happens. You stop being intimidated by obstacles. You stop being discouraged by delays. You stop being thrown off by problems. You become grounded. You become steady. You become unshakable in your purpose. And when life tries to break you, you bend but do not snap. This is why emotional resilience is the billionaire's hidden superpower. Wealth does not create emotional resilience. Emotional resilience creates wealth. It protects your vision. It sustains your drive. It keeps you aligned with your long-term mission even when the external world becomes chaotic. When you strengthen your emotional resilience, you transform your entire relationship with success. Because in the end, your empire will only be as strong as the emotions that hold it up. Topic 10. The impactful conclusion. The Billionaire Code is not about money, it's about who you become. After years of studying billionaires, visionaries, creators, and wealth builders, one truth became impossible to ignore. None of this is really about money. Money is a result. Money is a reflection. Money is the byproduct of identity, mindset, resilience, and relentless commitment to growth. The real Billionaire Code is a psychological transformation, a way of thinking and being that alters every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every belief you carry, and every action you take. When people ask what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary, the answer is not intelligence, luck, or resources. It is who they decide to become in the pursuit of their mission. Because greatness is never built from the outside in. It is built from the inside out. It begins with how you think, how you interpret challenges, how you treat your time, how you respond to failure, how you regulate your emotions, and how you protect your vision from the noise of the world. Billionaires are not defined by their wealth. They are defined by their habits, their patterns, their emotional strength, their belief systems, their ability to act while others freeze, and their courage to dream while others doubt. They are shaped not by circumstance, but by identity. And that is the real lesson. Wealth is not something you chase. Wealth is something you grow into. It grows as you grow. It expands as your thinking expands. It multiplies as your discipline multiplies. It follows the person you become. If you take away everything from a billionaire, the companies, the assets, the status, they would rebuild it. Not because of what they have, but because of who they are. You cannot take away a person's identity. You cannot erase their mindset. You cannot break someone whose inner world is stronger than their circumstances. The 10 patterns you have just explored are not external strategies. They are internal transformations. They are the upgrades that turn potential into power. They are the principles that reshape your destiny from the foundation. Thinking long-term rewrites your relationship with time. Discipline rewires your relationship with effort. Focus rewires your relationship with attention. Failure becomes data. Decisions become momentum. Belief becomes identity. Systems become leverage. Emotional resilience becomes armor. And all these together create a version of you capable of building extraordinary results in any area of life. You are not here to watch a video. You are here because something inside you knows you are meant for more. Something in you resonates with these principles. Something in you recognizes the truth of who you could become if you dropped the excuses, if you broke the patterns that shrink you, if you stopped living small, if you started thinking and acting from your highest potential. The Billionaire Code is not exclusive. It is available to anyone who chooses to rise, anyone who chooses to think bigger, act braver, and live with deeper purpose. Your future begins when you decide to embody these principles, not temporarily, not casually, but fully. Wealth, success, impact, freedom, they all come to those who commit to becoming the strongest, clearest, boldest version of themselves. The version that lives with intention, moves with purpose, and refuses to let fear dictate their destiny. You are not defined by where you are today. You are defined by who you decide to become from this moment forward. And if you choose to embody the mindset of billionaires, not for the money but for the transformation, your life will begin expanding in ways you cannot yet imagine. Because when your inner world rises, your outer world follows. When your identity strengthens, your opportunities multiply. When your belief deepens, your reality shifts. The Billionaire Code is not a secret. It is an invitation to step into the life you were meant to live, an invitation to build a future that reflects your true potential, an invitation to become the kind of person who doesn't just hope for success, but creates it, attracts it, and sustains it. And now, the next chapter is yours to write. Before you go, take a moment to honor the version of yourself who showed up today, because that alone is a sign that you are ready for more. And if this video awakened something in you, if it clarified your path, expanded your vision, or reminded you of the potential you've been carrying all along, then don't let this moment fade. Subscribe to the channel so you stay connected to this energy of growth wealth, mindset, and transformation. Like this video so it reaches more people who need this message. Comment below and tell me which of the 10 billionaire principles spoke to you the most. I read every comment, and your insight matters. And share this video with someone you care about, someone whose future deserves to expand just as much as yours. You're building a new level of yourself, and I'm here to walk that journey with you. Let's grow together.